Hello, this is Mr. Roboto, and this is the second part of our 2014 Draft Strategy Series. The first one you can see right here. You click on that and watch that. Find out about sleepers and duds. This part is going to be about Robodraft. Robodraft is going to build upon your cheat sheet, and so it's going to be based upon things like your league setup, the number of teams in your league. This particular Robodraft is set up for 16-team league. And we have performance scoring and points per reception. Typical setup with 1 QB, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 defense, 1 kicker, etc. Let's see. When you get into Robodraft, you have to order your teams. I believe I've already done that, so I'm going to delete any results that might be in there and start from scratch by clicking that link. And that'll take me in to the Robodraft draft room. Now, do you use this in concert with your draft? Yes, you do. But you also use it before the draft to plan your strategy, because Robodraft might not be doing something that you want it to do. So you've got to make sure to do this before the draft and get it right. Now, I came down here to make sure that the draft order was set up correctly. This is my team. It's over here. It's not set up, so I'm going to reorder the draft slots right off the bat. Just I don't care where everybody else is, so just make sure that I'm number 1 is all that really matters. There I am. Oh no, one more. There I am. 1, 2, 2, and that'll be enough to get me to the number 1 draft slot. Go to draft room and delete again. And voila, I'm in the draft room, and I have the number 1 draft slot. There I am. Great. So off the bat, I can see that Robodraft is telling me that I should, with my number 1 pick, I should use Jimmy Graham. Let me zoom in on that so you can see that. There it is, Jimmy Graham. Now some of you are out there thinking, boy, Jimmy Graham with the first pick in the draft. You don't have to use the first pick to get Jimmy Graham. You can use his ADP is 7, so you could potentially wait to the 7th pick. Or if you didn't want to take any chances, you can go with the 5th pick, let's say. Robo really likes him. His Robo DP is 16, so he's the 16th best player, but he's creates such a differential from the other tight ends that Robo wants to get him right away, because that's going to give you a big advantage in a head-to-head matchup against the other team's tight end, who's not going to be nearly as good. So that's great. Differentials are great, but what is Robo up to? Why does he want to get Jimmy Graham? To answer that question, you got to look down here and see what he's doing with the rest of your team. All right, he's going to have Crabtree be my number 1 wide receiver. Reggie Bush will be my number 1 running back. And then I've got another wide receiver, another running back. My QB is Dalton. And then you have to ask yourself, well, am I okay with that? And I'm a little bit unsure for reasons I talked about with RoboCheat about Reggie Bush. I'm not sure, and many people aren't sure if he's going to be the number 1 running back in Detroit. He might end up in a platoon situation. So I might say, okay, no, thank you, Oracle. Sorry for the interruption. Okay, and so I'm going to just nuke Reggie Bush. I'm going to say, no, I don't want to create a team that includes Reggie Bush. I'm going to nuke him. What does that mean? Well, if we zoom back out here, we'll see down here we've got this area where it lists nuked players. That's players that have been removed from consideration. Now I can unnuke them at a later point if I wish, and I probably will after I make my first pick, unnuke some of these players. Until I get my first pick just the way I want it, I'm going to start nuking players. And so you see Reggie Bush is still here, and you're like, why did I just nuked him? Why is he still here? Because you have to click the recalculate pick button. And so Robo goes through, about, let's see, not 8.9 with 17 zeros after it. What is that? I think 18 zeros is a quintillion. So it goes through a quintillion possible drafts, and out of that, it says the best you can do is 2411. I think the number was 2426 prior to me recalculating. So 2426 is the best I'm going to do, and if I reconfigure things, then I'm only going to go down. But that was probably a good configuration that I made given the uncertainty around Reggie Bush. And so now Robodraft says, well, if you can't get Bush as a sleeper, then your best bet is to go with the sure thing, Jamal Charles. And I like that with the first pick. I don't have to trade up to the 5th slot to get, to be in an appropriate position for Jimmy Graham. Although, I mean, that was a serious, that's a serious strategy. If you like Reggie Bush, then you go ahead and do that. Okay, and so what else is RoboCoach going to do for me? Well, let's see. Crabtree, Vincent Jackson, Colston is an optional pick. Anything with a star after it is optional. My second running back is Fred Jackson, and my QB is still Dalton. Okay, that's interesting. I'm happy with the first round pick. That looks good with Jamal Charles. One thing that I like to check is the ADP. So Crabtree, it has an ADP of 49. I can't get him in the 3rd round because there's 16 teams in this league. So when I get to the 3rd round, I'll be on, as the first person selecting in the draft. I get the first pick, the 34th and the 34th pick on the wrap, and then I could possibly get him. So I could get him with the 35th pick in the draft. So the question is, Robo likes him so much. He's got Robo DP. He doesn't want to risk it. He's just like, okay, let's get him in the 2nd round. I'm going to nuke him. And then Vincent Jackson, his ADP is 35, 2nd and 3rd pick. So Robo's just looking at that. He's like, these two are interchangeable because I have picks right next to each other, the 34th and the 35th pick. And so Robo is saying that, we're just going to take Crabtree and Jackson because you're not going to get one of those two players down here in the 4th pick because they'll both be gone. So in any event, let's just proceed with the draft. Say that's okay. If you didn't like Crabtree, maybe you might want to nuke him. I think you understand the process now. So let's just say I select Jamal Charles. I look down here. There he is. He's on my team, Jamal Charles now. And you might say, well, why didn't you recalculate my picks? You don't have to recalculate every single time. Robo tries to save time because this can go on during a busy draft, and you don't want to continue to recalculate picks every minute. That takes time, and if somebody goes and takes LaShawn McCoy off the board, then you want to record that. He's got LaShawn McCoy now, and you don't want to be waiting to get the picks back from Robodraft. So you can go through quite a few picks, and Robodraft would be just fine with that. Eddie Lacy might go a little bit earlier. Jimmy Graham goes off the board, and so on and so forth. Perhaps some of the players that you see here might go off the board. The quick pick is ordered by ADP, and so according to ADP, Calvin Johnson is supposed to be the next player to go off the board, and that's just how they're ordered. So you really just have to keep track of the draft for a while, and then when it comes back to be your pick, you click recalculate picks. And things have changed a little bit because some players have gone off the board and now things are different. Michael Crabtree's still your number 2, but he's now optional. Robodraft sees an opportunity to get Colston and Kenny Britt. And so since Crabtree's optional, you can go for anybody in the 2nd round. It's really up to you. RoboCoach is just saying, yeah, go ahead if you want to. I might want to unnuke Reggie Bush when it gets to be my choice again. If he's still on the board, I can unnuke him. I can click recalculate picks and see if he comes back in. He does. He's there in the 3rd round. If I still don't like him in the 3rd round, I can just nuke him back, and he's gone. I click recalculate picks, and he'll disappear. So I kind of like Reggie Bush. I definitely want to get a hold of the Detroit running back situation, but that may mean I have to pick up 2 players if I decide to go with Bush. So and then of course it may not be Bush who gets the starting nod. He just happens to be the number 1 running back right now in Detroit. That may change, and so if when it comes time for your draft, the other guy, I think it's Joique Bell, is the number 1 running back in Detroit, Robodraft is going to readjust and say you're going after Joique Bell instead of, and so on and so forth. And it'll be a platoon. You have to handcuff them. Nobody likes to handcuff, but Robodraft is seeing a big opportunity there, so you might want to consider it. So in any event, I think you've learned how to use Robodraft, and you see the sorts of trade-offs that Robodraft is making. He's making these decisions, these trade-offs based upon who he thinks are your sleepers and duds, and that's based upon your RoboCheat cheat sheet, and that in turn is based upon all your league settings. So make sure you've got all your league settings correct, and then come in and use Robodraft the way I did here prior to your draft, and then when you're done, you can always come back to Robodraft and then click delete what's ever in there, and that will delete, and you can start from scratch, and you've got all that. You will have done all that analysis, and you'll be ready for in-draft decisions. Now, here's an interesting feature down here. When you're done with your draft, you can click Save Draft Results to RoboCoach, and that will copy your draft from here to RoboCoach. And so later, after the draft is done, you can go to RoboCoach, and RoboCoach will give you suggestions on RoboDepth, on your depth chart, what it should be, what your waivers should be, what trades you might want to make, what just two team trades you might want to make, so on and so forth. Now, sometimes right after your draft, RoboCoach has to do a lot of calculations. Those will be done the night of your draft. So you're going to come here the next morning to find out, what should my depth chart be, what should my waiver be, and so forth. So you come in here the next morning and you see, is there somebody that maybe I should snatch off of waivers? Is there somebody that I should be trading for? And that's really a great opportunity right after the draft. Teams are sometimes unbalanced, and that's a good time to trade. You can find somebody who needs a running back, didn't do very well in the draft, didn't get the running back they wanted, and you might be heavy at wide receiver, you might be heavy at quarterback. There may be an opportunity for you to trade. So definitely visit RoboCoach the day after your draft. And that's it. Thank you very much for listening. This is Mr. Roboto. Please like this presentation. And we're going to have a couple more draft strategies for 2014 coming up. Thanks again.